With Predator Badlands out in cinema now, I figured why not just do a video ranking all of the Predator movies. Now, before getting into this ranking, full disclosure, I'm not the biggest Predator fan. That doesn't mean I don't like this franchise. I actually do like this franchise, but I would say I'm more like a casual Predator fan. You know, I enjoy the movies, I enjoy them for what they are, but I'm not like die hard about it. You know, I don't know the connection between every single Predator movie. I don't know the little details between every single Predator movie. I'm not super up to date with like the lore of the Predator movies. These are just movies that I just enjoy watching. They're just very fun action movies to me, and from that standpoint, I enjoy them. And I do find this franchise to be one of the more visually creative franchises out there, and it has some of the coolest concepts I've ever seen in a movie. So from that standpoint, I have a lot of respect for it. But with all that disclosed, let's get into the rankings. Starting with my number 9 spot, we have Aliens vs. Predator Requiem. I hate this movie. I can't stand it. Is it to anyone's surprise that this is in the last spot? This movie just fucking sucks. Okay, first off, all the characters, completely dog shit. They have like this bullshit teenage romance angle. I don't even think they're teenagers. I think they're like around my age. I think they're like in their 20s or whatever. I don't even know. Point of case is, it's this teenage drama bullshit that I just don't care about. You know, when I go and see an Alien versus Predator movie, I want to see the Alien and Predator fight. That's what I want to see. But they take so fucking long to get to that shit. I mean, yeah, like, they introduced the Alien and the Predator, but to actually see them fight, you got to get through a bunch of fucking teenage drama love angle bullshit that they just forced into this movie with characters that you don't give a fuck about. You have a police and a policeman and a convict teaming up and just buddy and being friends. It just makes no sense. On top of that, this movie is shot like dog shit. I can't see a single thing that's going on, which is kind of a shame because I feel bad for the makeup and special effects and costume design department because they done a really good job with the Predator and Alien design in this movie. I really love the costumes and the look of the Predator and Alien within this movie, but I can't fucking see them because the movie is shot like shit. Pred Alien is actually a really cool and creative concept, but they completely waste it in this movie. I just didn't give a fuck about anything they did with that thing in this movie. They didn't do anything interesting with it. And I think what really frustrates me about this movie is that this movie was purely made just for the sake of having a rated R AVP movie. They were like, okay, the first movie, everyone complained about it being rated PG-13. Okay, we'll make this one rated R and we'll just include the most disgusting, horrible, unneeded shit in an AVP movie, like an alien impregnating a woman. I didn't need to see that. It's fucking disgusting. This movie is just absolute dog shit. I would not recommend it. If you're really that curious, you can check it out. I mean, it's on Disney Plus. I mean, all of these movies are. I won't recommend it. It's a dog shit movie. I've watched it once. I never ever plan on watching it again. And the only reason why I'm even talking about this movie is because it's for the sake of this video, because I never think about this movie. I don't like thinking about this movie. It's a waste of time to think about this movie. Let's just move on. Okay, coming in at the number 8 spot, we have The Predator. What went wrong? Like, I don't get. You have Shane Black, who is a pretty talented director. I mean, he has some pretty acclaimed movies. You know, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is a fairly liked movie. The Nice Guys is a loved movie. People love that movie. He directed Iron Man 3, which I thought was a pretty decent movie, and then he went on to make The Predator. I just don't know what went so wrong with this movie. I think a lot of it probably had to do with the fact that this movie was riddled with studio interference and there was just so many changes made. The third act got changed a bunch. An actor got removed from the movie because he was actually a sexual predator. This movie was just a complete mess. They had autism as a plot point. Look, I have autism. I'm not offended, but I just don't. This movie had like the most backhanded compliment to autism I've ever seen in my life. They were like, yeah, the predator's coming to Earth because autism for the win. It's the next step in human evolution. Like, you actually can't make this shit up. They actually wrote that in the script for this movie. Yeah, it's poorly written. They just have a bunch of shitty characters you just don't give a fuck about. They were like, yeah, the first Predator movie was filled with iconic characters, right? Well, let's just try that again in this movie and do it a lot worse. Yeah, the characters in this movie are not characters. You have a guy who puts cigarettes out on his tongue. You have a guy who's fucking obsessed with God. You have a guy who's got Tourette's. This movie is just complete dog shit. I mean, it's kind of a shame because there's a lot of talent in this movie. There's a lot of good actors within this movie, and they do try try their best and they are entertaining within the movie. It's just they have to work around an incredibly shitty script, an incredibly shitty story, and just an absolute mess of a movie. Yeah, you remember the Predator, that really stealthy creature who kind of hid in the trees in the jungle, was kind of creepy and really suspenseful and kind of horrific? Well, basically, we're just having be out in the open, we're making him 8 foot tall, and he just kills everything and everyone and completely just bastardize that character. Yeah, it's safe to say I really don't like this movie. I just think this movie is a complete mess. I'm not saying it's completely Shane Black's fault. I'm not saying it's completely the studio's fault. It's just a mess of a movie that just had a conflict of a bunch of different ideas that didn't come to fruition. I think this movie was a complete waste. But you know what? It wasn't a waste of time. I don't regret watching it. It was really funny in parts, and it is kind of a bit of a guilty pleasure, if I'm being honest. Guilty pleasures are still not good movies, and this movie's still in the number 8 spot for a reason. The next 3 movies coming up, they honestly could be interchangeable. It just really depends on the day and my mood. But as of right now, I'm going to rank it at number 7. We have Predator 2. I just don't like this movie. I don't think this movie is anywhere near as bad as the other 2 movies that I spoke about on this list, but I just don't really have any strong feelings for this movie. I mean, it starts off kind of fun, kind of cheesy, kind of over the top. It gets really boring, and then at the end it gets kind of entertaining and cheesy again. This movie just is full of cheese. It's definitely a product of its time. It's just a very mediocre 1990s movie that has a very strong lead actor with Danny Glover. I really like Danny Glover. I think he brings a lot to this movie. You have Bill Paxton playing a fairly entertaining character, if not horribly written, but still entertaining nonetheless. But ultimately, you just have these characters you don't give a fuck about. You have this really horribly edited action. I really was not a big fan of the action within this movie. I thought it was really horribly edited. It was a bunch of quick cuts. I couldn't really tell what was going on a lot of the time. There is a really poorly shot and really poorly put together action sequence on this underground subway, on like this train, and it's just horrible. Like a bunch of flashing lights everywhere. It was just horrible. It just looked horribly shot. I couldn't tell what was going on. When they start killing off the main characters within this movie, like the characters you're supposed to be following, you just don't give a shit, because the writing does nothing to make me care about these characters, and the actors are trying, but again, it just goes back to that script, man. This movie was just very clearly made because the first movie made a lot of money, and they were like, okay, cool, we'll try a second Predator movie out, and it just didn't turn out that great. It isn't a horrible movie. It has some very cool and creative concepts. I really like the idea of the Predator going around the city on the hottest summer on record, just kind of like killing all these gangs, and the police are trying to figure out who's responsible for all these killings. That's a really cool and creative concept. Unfortunately, it's just in a movie that's incredibly mediocre. It's not the worst thing in the world. I don't think this movie is anywhere near as bad as some people say it is, but it's still not a great movie, and it's still not a movie to be honest, I don't think I will watch this movie again. I just have no reason to. In the number 6 spot, we have the first AVP movie. Now, I actually spoke a little bit about this movie in my Predator Badlands review, and I pretty much said how I wasn't a big fan of how the Predator and the human teamed up in this movie, because that's actually a concept in this movie that I was just baffled by. I was like, why would you do that? The Predator is always hunting the humans. You have to earn the Predator's respect. And from what I remember, I don't remember the chick in this movie earning the Predator's respect. They just kind of team up, fight the big alien thing at the end of the movie, and that's just kind of it. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool, that's what we're doing now. Yeah, AVP is a movie that I just don't really have that much to say about. It's just one of those movies that just kind of like, you watch it and you just almost instantly forget about it. I don't think this movie is anywhere near as horrible as some people say. I actually think it has some very good set design and some really cool practical effects, and it has some really entertaining action and doesn't take too long to get into the action either, which is something I respect about it. And if you look at Paul W.S. Anderson's other filmography, this is definitely one of the better movies of his, but I still just don't think it's that great of a movie. It has a story you don't give a shit about, has characters you don't give a shit about, and ultimately the action is just tame to a degree, because the movie's rated PG-13, and usually that's not an issue for me. I don't really care. I mean, the latest Predator movie was rated PG-13. That didn't really bother me all that much. So it's just like, but this movie just doesn't approach it in the right way. This movie had no reason to be rated PG-13. It should have been rated R. It does feel like it was stripped back and held back of its potential because of its rating, and obviously that eventually led to them making AVP Requiem and making that movie rated R. But Yeah, I'm getting sidetracked. Point in case is the rating of this movie definitely affected the quality of it to a degree. But even still, it's not like the writing's great. I mean, it's just a really fun concept movie, but it could have been so much more. I just wasn't really that entertained by this movie. It has a couple of cool sequences here and there, but honestly, I never really cared to rewatch this movie. I've seen it twice. I didn't really feel like I needed to rewatch it for this ranking, and honestly, I never really feel like rewatching it again, if I'm being honest. It's not offensively bad, but it's definitely not that great either, and honestly, I wouldn't recommend going out of your way for it. In the number 5 spot, we have Predators. Now, this movie, I don't know. I feel like this movie is kind of like somewhere in the middle of a lot of people, and I think that's where I kind of am with it as well. I don't really have too much to say about this movie because this movie is essentially just a copy and paste of the first Predator movie. It was like, yeah, let's just get a bunch of characters, just like we did in the first movie, chuck them in the jungle, just like we did in the first movie, have them go up against a Predator, just like we did in the first movie. They even try and recreate scenes and recreate lines from the first movie. This movie just had not a single original bone in its body, but I do respect it for some of the concepts it introduced, and that's why it's a little bit higher than the other two movies. I really liked some of the concepts it introduced. The idea of these convicts being thrown on this like kind of like alien planet, I think is actually a very cool concept, and I like that. I like the double meaning with the title in terms of the people who are put on the planet are essentially the predators just as much as the predators are the predators. And also, they introduced some new Predator creatures that we had never seen in any of the other Predator movies, which had some very cool design and led to some pretty entertaining action sequences. Has a really stacked cast that makes this movie a lot more watchable than what it would be if it had a less stacked cast. But ultimately, I feel like a lot of this movie is just kind of missing the charm, missing the fucking excitement of the first movie. It just wasn't really all that exciting, wasn't really all that charming. I'm not really a big fan of the whole concept of like two predator tribes fighting one another. Lawrence Fishburne just feels really forced in this movie. They were just like, yeah, we need a bit of downtime and we don't know what else to do. So we'll just introduce Lawrence Fishburne's character and he'll give us a bunch of exposition about the predators and how the predator tribes fight amongst each other and stuff. I'm not a big fan of this movie. I don't think it's particularly like offensively bad or nothing. It's not horrific. You know, I would be quicker to go back and rewatch this movie than the other two movies, well, the other four movies I mentioned, but it's still not a great movie. And I again, just, you can watch it if you want, but again, I wouldn't recommend going out your way for it. That's why it's in my number 5 spot. Coming in at number 4 might be a controversial take, but I'm actually going to put the new Predator movie, Predator Badlands. This movie is getting some really, really high praise. And you know what? I'm glad that Predator fans are happy with this movie. I didn't think this movie was going to be that good, and it actually turned out to be a pretty fun action movie. It was actually pretty kick-ass. I just don't think that this movie was particularly great, like how some people are saying it is. I thought it was very entertaining, had some very, very well-directed action. It was just a little bit CGI heavy at times. It had a very cliche and predictable story. It didn't really have the strongest script in the world, but it did have strong performances. It had some incredibly entertaining action sequences. It almost kind of felt like a summer action movie that was just thrown in the middle of like November. And I feel like if this movie came out in the summer, it would actually make for a really fun summer blockbuster. I definitely respect the more daring direction they kind of took this franchise in, you know, because it was very risky having a Predator at being like the protagonist of a Predator movie. That's just unheard of. The fact that this movie was very PG-13 as well is pretty daring, considering Predator, the Predator franchise, is pretty much primarily rated R and relies on a lot of violence. But they had some really clever workarounds with these things, and I actually really respect it from that degree. Had some very cool and creative concepts that I actually really loved, rather than just relying on the traditional Predator concepts that we've seen in the other movies. Overall, this movie was very entertaining. I just didn't love it. I thought it was a good movie. I enjoyed it, and it's definitely one of the better movies that came out this year, and it's one of the better Predator movies. I don't really have much more to say than that, so let's just move on to number 3. Coming in at the number 3 spot, we have Predator Killer of Killers. Now, this was actually my first exposure to Dan Trachtenberg's like ideas and vision for the Predator franchise, and what a first exposure and first impression it was, because this movie fucking kicked ass. It was fucking sick. This was just a straight up anthology action movie, and it wastes no time getting into the action. It has some of the best animated action scenes I've seen ever. I mean, this movie is an hour and 25 minutes. It felt like 45 to 50 minutes. I'm not gonna lie. It zoomed past it. It was very in, very out, and it wasted wasted no time, and there wasn't a single frame of this movie that I would like remove or extend. It was just the perfect length and was perfectly paced. It had some really creative concepts. I mean, I know I keep saying that, but what can I say? Dan Trachtenberg just knows how to come up with creative concepts for this franchise, and I think that's why everyone latches onto his vision for this franchise, because he's constantly coming up with new shit. And Predator Killer of Killers is no exception to that. He basically just come up with all these creative concepts. I mean, ever since Predator 2, it's been teased that the Predators have been around for years. So seeing them from like different eras of history, fighting different warriors from different eras of history was very interesting. But I think the one thing that lets this movie down is the whole story aspect. I don't think the story was particularly strong. I don't think the characters were around long enough for me to particularly latch on and care. But you know, it spends the right amount of time with them for you to get invested in the action scenes that they're in. And there was some very intense action, very gory action, and some of the best animation I've seen in a animated action movie. And yeah, it's great. It's really, really fun. This is a very, very fun movie. I don't really have too much more to say about it. It's definitely one of my favorite movies that have come out this year. And yeah, I really, really dug Predator Killer of Killers, and that's why it's in the number 3 spot. Coming in at the number 2 spot, we have Prey. Prey is a movie that took me a very long time to get around to, admittedly. It was just one of those movies that I was just like, I've got to watch that movie because everyone says it's really solid and everyone says it's good, and I want to check it out. I want to check it out. And then that thought went into my mind and just came out, and I just completely forgot about the movie. I just kept forgetting about the movie. But I finally had a good reason to sit down and watch this movie, and to my surprise, I actually really, really enjoyed it. I don't know, there was just something about this movie I wasn't expecting to enjoy. I don't know, it just looked a bit more lower budget than the other Predator movies, and I'm not saying low budget is bad, I'm just saying it just kind of looked like it had a bit of a cheaper feel than the other Predator movies, and I don't know, this movie just didn't really look all that appealing to me. I saw some of the screenshots of like the Predator design in this movie, and I was just like, oh, he looks kind of weird. But the screenshots don't really do the Predator justice in this movie. In fact, to my surprise, this actually might be my favorite Predator design in the entire Predator franchise. It's really cool. They have some very, very cool technology, like ancient technology sort of concepts in this movie. The Predator, like, there's some very cool and creative concepts with the Predator's weapons within this movie and the Predator design within this movie. This movie had a surprising amount of character depth as well, which I didn't expect in a Predator movie, but you know, and usually I feel like that would bother me in a Predator movie because I typically like when the Predator movies just keep it simple and just get straight to the action. But this movie took its time a little bit and it generally didn't bother me. I mean, it took me a while to get into it, but once I was there, I was hooked and I really enjoyed the journey that this movie took me on. I could really get behind the main chick in this movie. I can't remember her name, but I'll put her name here. I think she done a good job and I really enjoyed her character. I really liked her character journey that she went on in this movie. It was just a very simple story of her trying to prove her worth to her tribe as a huntress. And I really love the title of this movie, Prey. I love that for the first time in this franchise, we actually get to see the Predator become the prey. And I think that's actually really cool and very creative. I know I keep saying that, but it's true. What can I say? Dan Trachtenberg has some really creative ideas for this franchise. Overall, I just really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was very, very fun, and I really loved seeing the 1700s in a Predator movie, like being portrayed in a Predator movie. You know, it kind of goes back to that whole thing that was set up in Predator 2 of like the Predators being around for centuries. So to see it in live action and see like this Native American tribe go up against a Predator is really cool, really interesting, and just seeing the different ways how they have to deal with the Predator within this movie, with the technology that they have, because obviously they don't have guns. They have tomahawks, they have bows and arrows, they have spears and stuff, so they have to work with the technology that they've been given. I thought there was some really creative uses of that sort of stuff within this movie. Really solid movie and a really fun time. But of course, in the number 1 spot, we have the original Predator. This movie is just fantastic. What can I say? This is one of the best directed movies ever, and I'm not even exaggerating. John McTiernan just done such a great fucking job directing this movie. He was able to blend so many tones together so seamlessly. It was part action, part sci-fi, part suspense horror, and it just blends together so seamlessly, and it's such a seamless transition between the genres, and I love how it sets up its creature in this movie. First Predator movie could have very easily fell into that kind of like schlocky kind of category of just throwing a bunch of meatheads in a jungle or throwing them in an action movie and just making them really over the top and goofy, and you just don't give a shit about any of them. But this movie does a really smart job in terms of just having this like kind of like really fun camaraderie between the characters that actually makes you get behind them and actually care about them. And on top of that as well, the cast in this movie is absolutely fucking stacked, and everyone was incredibly well cast for their given roles, which just helps enhance the characters within this movie and helps you get behind them even more. Arnold Schwarzenegger was the best. Like, might be the best role of his, honestly. I really love him as Dutch in this movie. He has kind of like a different feel compared to some of his other movies. You know, he still has some of them Arnold-isms, but I don't know, he's just, what can I say? Like, there's something about this movie. He just brings kind of like a little bit of a slightly, like, there's just something about his performance in this movie that I can't explain. It's just that it feels slightly different to some of his other performances. And honestly, out of all his performances, this might, like I said, it might be my favorite of his. I will never forget the first time I saw the first Predator movie. This must have been like, yeah, this was years ago. I was actually sitting down on my sofa. I was like 8 or whatever. And I was sitting there watching, I turned on TV and I saw this movie of these men in a jungle, and I saw like these lasers going on their face and stuff. I was like, what the fuck is that? It creeped the living shit out of me, but I couldn't help but carry on watching it. It was one of those movies that just has always stuck with me. Of course, I watched it again years later, and I loved it even more, and I rewatched it again recently, and I still really love this movie. I still really like this movie. It has an amazing soundtrack. It has excellent direction. It's very well shot, very well made, great use of location. The only issue I actually have with this movie is the fact that once the characters start dying, they die very quickly and in a very short amount of time. And I get that some people may like that. They may be like, well, the Predator is very threatening. The fact that it's able to have these meatheads, these guys who are very used to danger, be afraid, should say something. And I get that. But I don't know, I'm not really a big fan of how quickly it kills the characters in this movie. Like, I don't mind that it kills them quickly, but I feel like they could have spaced out a little bit more time before each character death, because it just kind of jumps into it and then they basically just non-stop die after that. It's like they're dying like 5 minutes between each other, and it just feels a little bit rushed in that element. But with that said, it's still a badass action movie. It's still one of my favorite movies of all time. It's still one of the best directed movies of all time. And yeah, it's just a great movie. And of course, if you haven't seen it, I am recommending this movie. Go and see it. It's a great movie. It's one of the best movies ever. And yeah, go and check it out. So that is it. That is all the Predator movies ranked. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I had a fun time making it. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and make sure to let me know in the comment section down below, what are some of your favorite Predator movies? In fact, what's your ranking of the Predator franchise? Let me know in the comment section down below. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one.